Welcome to Problem Solve, the podcast where me and a special co-host solve all your problems really easily, probably.
Problems? Are you kidding me? I don't have any problems. Okay, I might have a few, but I can work on them with you. Come on.
Emily Dexter, you are back on my podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you. But before we get into stuff, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Dexter, or known as Liker of Words on most platforms. I'm a professional psychic and psychic activator, as well as a historical medium, which basically just means I channel people who lived in the ancient past and talk to them, and do all of the magical things overall. And it's one of my basically life goals and missions and purposes to help everyone else feel empowered in their own psychic abilities as well. So it's not so much like me sitting there telling you what's going to happen in the future. It's more me sitting there and helping you figure out what will happen in your own future. So I do a lot of that. And yeah, thank you for having me. I am really stoked to be here and getting to talk to you in this time that we are in.
Yeah, in this very weird time. Yeah, you're one of my favorite people to talk to. I've had a couple private sessions with you before, and you've also been on the podcast, like I said. And I'm a therapist, right? And I see a bunch of clients, and all the clients were talking about all their different feelings about the recent election and Trump getting elected. Also, I live in a bubble within a bubble within a bubble. I live in Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And so all of my clients and all of my friends and everybody I know in my city feel the way that I do. We were all hoping that Kamala Harris was going to win. I personally was convinced. I just allowed myself to convince myself that she was going to win and it was going to be okay. And so I was shocked. A lot of other people were shocked. Lots of people are really scared and worried and wondering, what does this mean? So I wanted to reach out to you because a lot of times when I talk to you, I get some, clarity or some answers or things that can help me reframe what's going on or validate my fears. I don't know. We'll see where this conversation goes. So yeah, you can answer these questions in whatever way you feel appropriate, whether it's connecting with spirit or guides or whoever's, or just having a conversation with me. So I don't know if you saw this trend or maybe it was just my algorithm. Okay. But before the election, it seemed, and I'm not blaming you for anything here, but it seemed like lots of other astrologers were Kamala Harris is going to win. It's going to be okay. It's showing 2 terms, actually. Don't worry about it. Did you see a lot of astrologers or people in the spiritual world kind of make these predictions by reading all the charts that she was going to win? Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh, I did see that.
Okay, you did. Okay.
And it made me very touchy because so first of all, I'm not an astrologer, but my business partner is. So their name is Crystal Lynn. If you want to follow them, their handle is Modern School of Ancient Wisdom. They're a really, really good astrologer, and they do the ancient techniques about it. However, there's multiple different types of astrology. So every time someone comes on and they're like, this is what the chart says, it might not be saying the same thing as another form of astrology is saying because there's 5-6 different ways. Now, there's always a million different ways to read those charts on top of that. So potentially they could be looking at it and just reading the wrong side or reading this part of it and not that part of it. There's a million different things to do, which is too much math for me personally, because I just sit over here and talk to weird things in the world. I'm like, oh, that's fun. So a little bit more of my vibe. That being said, I did see a lot of people making those very, very firm predictions, which was kind of shocking to me personally, because for months, every time I tuned in or looked at the energy of it, every time I tuned in, it was it's going to be weird. It is not cut and dry. It is not clean and simple. You're not going to get all the information right away. I keep getting, and I have gotten for months, this is not something that we get a full answer to till at least the end of November, beginning of December. And I keep getting that even now where I'm okay, so there's still something that we're missing, some piece of it that's outstanding and sitting out there. Most of the astrologers that I talked to and worked with that really dove into the charts and really studied them kind of extensively were pretty much like, hey, there's not even a lot of transits and things happening on the day of the election. It's kind of like the sky is silent and waiting for us to do some stuff. So they really also were like, I don't know if that's how it's going to go. It looks very open right now of which direction. I will say after like the 19th, when Pluto moves into Aquarius, some stuff gets more concrete and easy to look at and read energetically. But I did see that a lot online, and it was an interesting choice to make that intense and committed of a prediction based on astrology. Truly.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I was like, but I allowed it to be like, well, I guess they're going to be right. I allowed it to make me feel better. You know, I wasn't like convinced that this is actually going to happen. I'm not going to like trust it 100%, but it like nudged me in the direction that felt good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen a handful of people being like, these astrologers let me down. What's going on? And then I felt like, now like these astrologers are making a bad name for other astrologers, and it was just like hard to see.
It happens a lot too, unfortunately, especially with astrology, because there's like academic astrology, and those are the ones that are like, okay, well, this planet moved 1 degree. What does that mean? Like, and they like really get into it. And then there's like pop astrology. And unfortunately, the pop astrologers, which are the more like just, hey, you're an Aries, so you do this, like that type of energy, which there's a place for both. Like, don't get me wrong. However, because of the pop astrology, that's a lot of the people who are making these predictions were these very vocal, very just going by your sun sign, maybe slightly doing a Saturn progression or something like that, but being like, no, this is how it's going to go. And just because there's not a lot of information. And unfortunately, it does make a bad name for other astrologers. And it's actually something weird, because it's something I can combat quite often being in the spiritual community, is the people who know the least and understand the least are typically the loudest about all of the stuff. So we end up coming up all the time against people who, like, specifically, whenever someone's like, well, here's a simple example. You remember that rug thing on TikTok a while ago that there were like, I don't know if it hit your algorithm or not, but there was a woman who dug up a rug and she's like, I think there might be a body in the rug. No. And then she made a big freaking deal. Oh, it was a huge deal about it. Like for like a week and a half, she even like changed the name of her profile to like Rug Lady or something. Like she like went for it. She committed. She sold merch before, but she like straight up. And she did invite, you know, the cadaver dogs, whatever, to sniff, but a bunch of very loud psychics picked up on that, and they're like, oh, well, there's definitely this and that, there's definitely that and that. And then it was nothing in there. That, you know, the cadaver dogs did touch it, so potentially there's some DNA or something in there. Like, we don't really know. It wasn't, but it was not the body that everyone was saying. And so then everyone's like, oh, well, the psychics didn't know. And they're like, that's just not how it works either. Like on a root level, like you can look at it and be like, oh, I think the energy is this. But unfortunately, like that is not how psychic stuff works, especially future sight psychic stuff. It's more of, you get like a snapshot of a photo and you just be like, oh, this is what this photo looks like, and I can describe this to you. However, if you then go to that moment in time and you only took a perspective shot from the sideways this way, you only got to see this little window into it. And so when things like that come up, or this election, I was very hesitant on some of my like Patreon and things like that. I made more concrete like predictions, of which, like I've mentioned, just, you know, I think it's not till the end of the month that we even get concrete anything.
What does that mean, until the end of the month or December that we get concrete anything?
I don't know if it's just the ratification of results. Yeah. Which it could be that. I don't know if I'm trying to speak very generally about it, because right now there's so many energies that kind of at play. Yeah. Honestly, to talk about it even more, like not to get too extremely woo-woo with it, but all of like my peeps on the other side that I've channeled, like all of my guides and deities and things, I'm like, what's going on over there? Yeah. Was this a surprise? And apparently Earth is kind of like the middle point of a tug of war with like 18 different ropes that are all tied in knots. So like we're having like a really fun time, but the other side is also having a really fun time. Like they're not having a good time with it at all. And I was asking kind of like, okay, so like, where are we headed? And they're like, listen, we have sort of end goal things that we're heading towards with Earth, but everyone has a different opinion how it's going to happen. So everyone's kind of fighting over how to get us there, which is also why down here we're feeling like one day it's going this way and then pivot, and now we're over here and then pivot again. And it's been really funky. So I keep looking at it and they keep being like, don't panic yet. You have to wait till the end of the month to panic. And I'm like, cool, I'll wait till the end of the month to panic then. Like,
and
I don't know.
Relieving. that, we
Yeah.
can like hold off the panic. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if I need to panic then, I'll panic then, but I will wait till the end of the month because I mean, like I said, that's what I've gotten for months.
Interesting. Okay, quick ad break. There's some things in life that are fine to leave to chance, like trying out that cheap Instagram ad impulse buy, or taking a gamble on a new takeout spot, or even rolling the dice on a workout class that might just be a little too intense. But finding the right doctor, yeah, that's not something you want to leave to chance. And with ZocDoc, you do not have to. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and then click to instantly book an appointment. Seriously, we're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and everything in between. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, and are a good fit for any medical need you might have. Plus, they're highly rated by verified patients, so you know you're getting the best. And here's the kicker. You can see their actual appointment openings and book a visit instantly. ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically like within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You might even score a same-day appointment. I have used ZocDoc myself. That is a true story, and let me tell you, it makes the whole process of finding a doctor so much easier. There's no stress, no endless Googling, just straightforward, fast, and convenient. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/solved to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/solved. ZocDoc.com/solved. Seriously, you will thank yourself for making life a little simpler. Let's pull back a little bit. So, why... This is a big question, so I don't know what you'll say or if you can answer this, but why does Trump even exist? Like, what's he here to do, and what does he represent? Can you talk on that?
Oh, yes, I can. Okay. So you're like, let's go the big question.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. All of the hatred and misogyny and racism and homophobia that he represents existed before him. He is a symptom of a much larger problem. Mm-hmm. So on a spiritual, higher self-level perspective, he's the Band-Aid that got ripped off. Mm-hmm. So all this stuff can be exposed. Mm-hmm. In my personal belief, and I don't know if this is just because I believe the best in the world all the time, or if this is exactly how this works, will work out. But I feel like this is ripping a lot of that stuff up by the roots so that it doesn't continue to fester. Mm-hmm. And we needed somebody to do that. Unfortunately for all of us, it was him. Mm-hmm. And that's what came in. It also, a lot of his energy is very protected from consequences. It's really yucky. Like, I've looked at it for years. I actually met him when I was a teenager, and I was like, oh, I hate him. He's gross. So I've looked at his energy before he was a president. Okay. Because I met him at the celebrity golf tournament. I live in Lake Tahoe, so he was up here. And anyway, all that's to say, he was nasty then. He doesn't like people. Mm-hmm. Unless they're rich and they can make him more rich, he does not like you. I promise. Mm-hmm. And then also I've looked at his energy, now since becoming president, and now potentially president again. Mm-hmm. He has bowling bumpers around him, on the bowling lane. Every time he gets too close to having a consequence, it bumps him back. Yeah. Which is infuriating. On
how
so
do
many
I get
levels.
that? I want that.
I know. Yeah. I'm like, why? What?
Because it seems like he was set up cosmically. So mm-hmm. He has these bumpers. He's so he's this bandit that's getting ripped off, that's revealing what's happening underneath it all, which I get even from a psychological point of view, that we have to dig deep and understand the roots and what's really driving everything mm-hmm. underneath it, so we can actually address it and make change or accept it or tolerate it or move forward. I don't know. So this framing, even mm-hmm. though I don't like what he is or what he's revealing, mm-hmm. and this framing and also the election results that have come in is there's clarity. There's mm-hmm. clarity about this country and who's here and what they all feel and what they all believe. So at least mm-hmm. there's that, even though it's incredibly upsetting.
Absolutely. It's so deeply upsetting in so many ways. And I think it's exposed like even deeper than what we anticipated, like on an energy level too. Like, yes, we see all of the, like, I mean, ask a Black person. They know that this country's racist. Like they've been aware, but now it's finally like everyone can see it, and see things like the prison industrial complex and those types of things for what they really are, and that is getting really exposed. But also, I think it's also showing the depth of lack of education that has occurred intentionally with people in specifically poor communities. And I think that is another thing that's being really revealed of like people don't understand these things and they got, kind of taken advantage of. I also truly think on a spiritual level, he was part of what I consider a lot of people's awakening to spirituality. So there is that element of that, which is kind of what, not to diagnose him, but narcissists are going to do for people.
Go for it, yeah.
So narcissists, essentially, it's kind of like asking like what their function is or role is on a spiritual cosmic level. And truly what it is it's to wake up the people around them. So most of the more spiritual people I know have at some point in time had to be in some type of relationship with a narcissist before they got there. Like it happens. It's a very common thing. Mostly because before they don't understand their empathy and after they do. Like afterwards they're like, oh, I do see how I empathized here, and they can grow, and then they want to dive into self-betterment themselves and all these different things. So it's a huge catalytic type of connection to have a relationship with that type of person. He now has a relationship with the whole entire world, and that is a huge thing. So I can only assume at this note, but I see the pattern very clearly and see the energy around it, that when he does go away and this starts to really heal, this wound that has been exposed for the festering thing that it is, a lot of spiritual awakening connection is going to come along with that, because a lot of people are going to be getting out of this relationship with a narcissist.
Yeah. I wish that we didn't have to evolve in this sort of way. You know what I mean? And I think that, like, for my own, if I'm like really sort of personalize things into my own life, it sometimes feels like I'm supposed to go in a certain direction, and I get hints and nudges and sometimes signs and clear signs that I should be doing something. And if I don't listen to it, then there's a really big like event that happens, like, you got to go this way, buddy. And it feels like maybe us as a country or a world had lots of signs of like, let's move into empathy or be heart-centered or be more connected or authentic or kind, whatever. And we just didn't get the signs. And so that's why this is how I don't know if this is true or not true, but it feels like that's also a reason of like, we're getting hit over the head with what's going on so that we can make positive change.
I could not agree more. I get the image, and regardless of how you feel about his politics, but the image of Bernie Sanders with the bird on his podium, just looking at him and like blessing him basically from the universe. Like, we had a lot of signs to go in a different direction of compassion and love. And honestly, it happened again and again. I mean, you could even say that like COVID was part of that, of being like, hey, rely on each other. And most of the world, unfortunately, was like, la, 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 don't like that. Let us not mask, whatever it is. So I think this is, and what you're speaking of, for sure. Like if you don't follow your signs and your nudges and you're like resisting, stuff blows up, like stuff gets messy in your own personal life. All of us have an example of that too, because we're all victims of the human condition, which is so unfortunate for us as a collective. But truly, that's it, how it works. And I think we're really in that space now of, this is our, I lovingly call it a hell fucking no moment, where we hit a wall and it's like, hell fucking no, I'm never going that way ever again. And I think that is us right now on a cosmic level.
Yeah, I thought maybe we got the hell fucking no moment during his first 4 years as a president. And so I was surprised spiritually, cosmically, logically, psychologically, that we also have to maybe do it again here. It seems like it. So it feels like, we got this lesson of him being here, and then instead of going in the right direction, it's like, no, we still didn't get the right lesson. And so now we're doing it all over again, and possibly in an even more painful kind of way.
I energetically, I think part of the reason that kind of happened is the last 4 years, unfortunately, a lot of dynamic change did not occur towards the betterment of people. Right. And I think that's part of it, is we all, a lot of people got real comfortable doing not a lot again. And then there's been really huge world events that have really people have showed up and been like, we're still doing horrible shit in the world. This is not good. And nothing stopped that. And I think that is just a further like, hey, you guys did not learn anything. And so now it's kind of circling back around.
Okay, quick ad break. I got a question for you. What helps ground you when the world feels like it's on fire? The answer? Cozy Earth. Look, we may not be able to control the fate of the earth, but we can control our personal level of coziness, right? Gifting Cozy Earth this holiday season is like offering someone their own little sanctuary from the chaos out there. Let's start with their bamboo sheet set. If you're feeling anxiety, because of course you are, slipping into these sheets is like finding a secret portal to peace. They're temperature regulating, so you stay cool even when the existential dread kicks in at 2 a.m. And trust me, this level of softness, it's the kind of comfort you didn't know you needed in times like these. And for days when the forecast is feeling especially apocalyptic, Cozy Earth's Cityscape hoodie is the coziest armor you could ever ask for. It's got that just right fit and feel. So if you're hunkering down to ride out the storm or just trying to tune out the noise, it's like wrapping yourself in a little bubble of calm. So, if you're looking for a gift that lets someone escape from reality for just a bit, head over to cozyearth.com/solved and use my exclusive code SOLVED for a solid 40% off, because when things are feeling uncertain, we can at least count on Cozy Earth for comfort. And hey, if you get a post-purchase survey, let them know that you heard about Cozy Earth from me. You should wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth, or just wrap yourself in a little denial blanket, because sometimes tuning out is self-care, my friends. Are you able to, I know that sometimes you can do this, sometimes it's a little tricky, but are you able to get in touch with like Donald Trump's spirit guides?
Okay, so yes.
Okay.
Okay, this was this was the week before the election, and I was pissed. I was having a really angry day, which, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. All emotions are divine. So, like, just gonna put that there. If you're feeling angry or sad or scared or panicked or frustrated or whatever, like, that is still a divine emotion. Like, that's there's not like, you need to be love and light to be spiritual. Fuck that. So all of it is still spiritually aligned. So just gonna say that. But I was having a moment of really intense anger, and I was like, I'm gonna go talk to his guides. Like, I'm gonna see if I can go. Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Now, an important thing to note about spirit guides. Your spirit guides, basically, before you come on planet, you hand them a map that might have a ton of plot points. It might have 3. And you're like, these are the things I'm doing down there. And your guide's job is essentially to get you from plot point to plot point, right? They fill in the blanks, which unfortunately means that, as I've been told many times, the universe does not operate off of our sense of morality, right? So even someone who's an awful, terrible person and their plot points are to do awful, terrible things, that still means they get guides that help them to do those things, because that's what the universe has deemed we need down here, or that's part of our evolution, or whatever it is. Hence the sagging carrot of a man. So I was tapping into see if I can talk to his guides. Now, I ethically, on my side, I never go into someone else's energy field without their consent, which doesn't mean I can't throw things at them or, send energy away or whatever. And it doesn't mean I can't talk to their guides. I just don't go in and do like energy work inside of someone's space. So I went to talk to his guides. The funny thing is, I was like, who is on his team? They all showed up looking like Secret Service people. Like, they were like hiding almost, is what I was like. I dislike this. What is going on? And it was very much just like, we're doing the last little bit here. This is the last little bit of time he's got. So we're just doing what we need to do. And I was like, can you not? Or can you hurry it up?
Right.
Like, if we can speed run this last little bit, maybe shorten that time, that might be a cool thing. And they were like, absolutely not. Would you like things to be worse? Like, that's a catalyst moment. I was like, okay. So I did tap into them, and I did try to talk to them, and they were very busy doing things.
Sure.
But they also they were like kind of ashamed. Like, usually guides like show up and I can like see them. And these guides were kind of just like, no, like, here's my sunglasses. Like, you can't see me. Right. And I was like, what is going on? Are you upset about something? Like, okay, so you don't like this. Got it. Got it.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that makes sense. I kind of have some empathy for those guides or all the spiritual beings working around Trump, where they have to like carry out this thing that doesn't feel good to them maybe, or doesn't feel good to us, obviously. Yeah. So there is like, for me personally, there's like some sort of, I feel good or something knowing that, like, okay, there are certain plot points that are supposed to happen and that they're supposed to happen for a reason. And the reason is to eventually, whatever, grow, evolve, feel more connected, be one with love, whatever. Like, there's like good stuff that's supposed to happen. And these people, these guides, whoever they are, like trying to get us there. But I would imagine that they feel like not great about it.
Yeah. I will say that, I mean, that's one of the things that's been giving me a lot of comfort is like, okay, well, I decided to come down here and do this for some reason. And I'm not saying we pick all our pain or anything, but we do decide to kind of like incarnation is a choice for the most part. And so we picked our time and what we're going to do and things like that. So we decided to come down here, and I just keep being like, I decided to come down here, which means I'm doing something. Like, there's something that I'm doing here that's important. And it's provided a lot, like a weird level of comfort to be like, okay, well, I do trust the universe still. Like, even with all of this, I do still trust the universe. And I still would want to be incarnated during this time because, looking back at all the other times on Earth, this is the most comfortable we've ever been. And we've assumed that this is that we're supposed to be comfortable. Like, that is the norm, when really like the actual existence of human is discomfort. Like, that's a layer of this universe cake that we're on is supposed to be uncomfortable on purpose. So we're now relearning that we forgot in a matter of like 2 generations.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think of every now and then is the last time we talked on my podcast, one of the things you said is that one of the reasons we're here is to have uncomfortable experiences. And that really stuck with me because that fucking sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I get it, again, from like a psychological growth sort of perspective, but that is really hard to hear. And it's also, that's not going to help lots of folks that are like really suffering, right? To be like, well, you know, we're here for uncomfortable experiences. So there's that. Like, that's not helpful. That doesn't feel good. That's not going to help anybody that's like really suffering or in a lot of pain or in a ton of danger. If we can like maybe take a bunch of steps back, that can kind of make us feel all right. But it doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't take away the suffering, right? So it's hard to hear.
It's awful. No, it's like, I mean, that sucks. Earth is hard. Like, Earth is a hard place to be, even in the universe in general. I mean, we're anything that becomes really physical existence, whether it's Earth or even more physical, the lower down the universe cake we get, stuff is harder. Stuff is heavier, and that doesn't negate any of the pain that everyone is going through and reasonably going through, especially right now. It would be so no, I totally get it. It's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. It's interesting, though, when you said, like, at the beginning of this conversation, you were saying that Earth is sort of being pulled in 18 different directions, and there's some, I don't know, there's some fight that's happening up there that we're kind of like feeling the consequences of. Like, there's just, it feels like, everything is being pulled in all these different directions. And one of my questions was like, do the spirit world even care about politics? But I guess they do. Like, it matters to them just as much to us, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely. They definitely care about that. I mean, so on I'm going to talk about on like a not as woo level and then on like a super woo level. So if you're like, if the woo level hits you and you're like, I don't want to listen, I don't know what, that's fine. Whoever listens to that is like, that's fine. On a like less woo woo level of the whole thing. Yeah, absolutely. They do totally care about politics because they are invested either in guiding the beings that they're guiding down here and the outcomes of their lives, or invested in the timeline and fates of the planet as a whole. Right. So, hey, we're rising up in vibration. We're going up the universe cake more. In order to get there, we got to do these things. They use the tools that we have available to us in order to do so. So when people will ask me things like, hey, like, can I get validations from my algorithm? I get that all the time, and that feels really weird. I'm like, absolutely. Like, that's a tool that we have right now. So that's part of what they can use to communicate with us, et cetera. So yeah, they're very invested. They're very, very invested, and kind of always have been. That's where we get myths from, when they walked around on planet and we got like that. Like, they were invested then in what king sat on the throne in, the BCs, and they're invested now in what king sit on the throne.
Yeah.
And what that means for everybody. So there's kind of like that. That's the like less woo-woo component. The super woo-woo thing is essentially what's happening is when we talked about the layers of the universe cake on your previous podcast episode, I won't go all the way through it, but essentially if the universe is a cake, we're sitting somewhere in kind of the middle, but we're kind of trying to like move up a tier is kind of what's happening on this level. What happens when you move up a tier is the universal beings that are above us, guides, deities, fairies, whatever who else is out there, get more access here, because the higher up on the cake you go, the more movability you have around the universe. So the higher up we're going, now we're seeing more things and feeling more things and becoming more awakened, and they also have more access to us. We just got out of eclipse season. So eclipse season was back at the end of September, beginning of October, and this eclipse season was a doozy in a bunch of different ways, and I think we all probably felt it in some way too. It was not comfortable. However, right in the middle of eclipse season, basically two different timelines smush together. And those are not our personal timelines where we're like, oh, there was like a little glitch in the matrix for me, or I swear I didn't set that there and now it's there. Like, that's super weird. We have our personal timelines too. Those are a lot more mutable. We travel between those all the time. The planetary timelines are what went smoosh. So that is like this layers of the universe. If you think about it like a page, hold on, let me give a visual.
Okay.
And I will describe it for those listening. Okay. But if you think about walking along the pages of a book, not like inside the pages, but like if you're holding the pages up facing the sky and you're like walking along that, if you think of each of the pages as a timeline, essentially Earth's timelines, two of them combined into one page. So there were two things going on. There's two versions of us walking on both sides, and then we smushed together back into one version. That's like the simplest way I can describe it. But we moved up. So everything got more eyes on us, more things coming in. And if things have felt really funky since the beginning of October, where you're like, okay, I'm really extra emotional. Obviously there's election and earthy stuff happening, but just on a personal level too, or, bigger glitches in the matrix, or, things that you're like, don't remember ordering showing up. And you're like, how did I get this thing? Or, all those different kind of components. That's where we get like the Mandela effects, whatever, right? We get a lot of those things. Yes. We had that also occur. So with that kind of timeline smushing together, all that means is like we're, things got kind of accelerated for us because we kind of combined two spaces. And so when we're getting pulled in all these different directions, it's all these different beings, perhaps from different pantheons or different planets or different whatever energies that are like, okay, well, we have more access to Earth now. We'd like it to go in this direction to get to this endpoint. Or someone else is like, well, I think we have more access to it too, and I think they should go in this direction to get to that endpoint. And someone else is like, well, actually, they need to go in this direction to get to that endpoint. So part of it is because our timeline stuff got funky, which happens the higher up the universe cake that you go. Sure. And there's perks of that too. I don't want anyone to be freaked out by it. Like, it's good too. You have more access to your guides. You have more access to your own magical abilities. We have more access to communicate with Earth and understand what she needs. We have more access to community in general and understanding each other. Like, it's a good thing. It just now everyone has more opinions on what they think we should do.
So everyone in like in the cake,
the cosmic
in
sphere,
or the cosmic sphere. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got it. Yeah. Okay. Another quick ad break. If you've ever tried trimming down below and ended up with, well, more blood than you bargained for, you know the pain of a little nick that just will not quit. Trust me. I have been there, and that's why I was genuinely impressed with the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. This thing is a game changer. It helped me keep everything neat and in check without the painful moments I've had with other razors. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is the real MVP here, though, giving a smooth, precise trim that lets you feel comfortable and confident. No drama, just results. And for those rogue nose or ear hairs that show up uninvited, the Weed Whacker 2.0 has you covered. Manscaped has thought of everything, even aftercare for your most sensitive areas, with the Crop Soother Ball Aftershave and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafing Deodorant. You are irritation-free and ready to face whatever the season brings. They have even thrown in some holiday bonuses, premium boxers that they sent me and are incredibly comfy, and a sleek toiletry bag, because a little luxury goes a long way. So if you're looking to gift yourself or someone else that extra bit of confidence this season, head over to manscaped.com and use my code SOLVED for 20% off plus free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code SOLVED. take care of yourself. And yes, even those areas that need a little extra TLC, because a little self-care can make all the difference. So I don't know if this was, I was going to say, I don't know if this is part of my grief process or if this was really happening, but it's probably a combination of it all. But when election night happened, and then we wake up the next day and we're just like, ugh, Trump got more votes. The first thing I said is like, this is not my timeline. This is not the timeline that I was supposed to be on. And how can I jump to the timeline that I thought I was going to be on, where Kamala Harris wins and everything feels okay? And I was mad that I'm on this timeline, that I'm not on some other one. And then I was like, well, maybe there's a version of me, a Jeff Gunther of me, that is on that timeline where Kamala Harris won and everything feels a little bit better. And I love it for that guy, but can we switch? How do we, or does like a Jeff need to be on this timeline so that a Jeff on the other timeline works? There's probably tons of timelines, but I really don't like the one that I'm on right now at this present moment. But it felt like a weird timeline-y thing, and this kind of creates a little more context for that, I guess.
Yeah. The answer to all of your questions is yes, too, unfortunately, to like not get too like confusing into it. The way I describe it is too, like when we think of like, we have this one life, well, really our consciousness is almost immeasurable. Like science has a hard time even measuring that, right? So we're just, our consciousness right now, the consciousness we're perceiving is focusing on this timeline, this version of us. Really, when we're incarnating for life, though, we're like coming to the middle of a wheel, and that wheel, all the spokes that stretch out, however many of them, are all the different timeline versions of you for this lifetime. However, they all, in my experience and my channeling, all those different timelines that you're currently in, they're all going through the same kind of arc of what you needed to come down and learn. So even though there's a Jeff on a timeline where Kamala won and it seems better, you're still going to have to experience the same feelings and energies and things you're clearing and healing, whatever, in that timeline too, just done in a different way. So all those different timelines for this specific incarnation for us all are experiencing whatever those plot points you gave your guides, just in different ways. Until that wheel is complete.
That makes me feel better and worse at the same time. Yeah,
straight up. Yeah. So like, yeah. When I first tapped in and really learned about this a couple of years ago, when I was really channeling on it because I was pissed off about stuff again. This is motivation for a lot of my like big universal discoveries. I was like, why is this like this? I want to get into this timeline. And my guys were like, so you want to go to that timeline when you learn it like this, or you want to go to that timeline when you learn like this? I'm like, oh. I don't actually like any of that option. I guess I'll stay on this one. So
I guess the desire is to learn the thing in the least uncomfortable way, but there's going to be some sort of uncomfortable aspect to learning a thing. Like that's how we grow. That's how we figure out what we want. That's how we become more clear or stronger or kind of whatever. So. Yeah, you have to suffer. Suffering creates growth and blah, blah, blah. I say all this bullshit to my clients and I mean it. So, like, it's good. You're reminding me on like a spiritual level what's going on here. There has been one of the main feelings though is how do I jump off of this timeline and experience the other one? But I mean, if I'm just going to be learning the same kind of thing in a slightly different way, and maybe even in a harder way, then like I might as well just stick with the timeline I'm stuck on anyways.
Yeah, and we still don't have the full picture either. Like right now we're in the immediate grief moment, which is valid, and we should be in the immediate grief moment, and it's scary. But this is the precipice of a whole lot of changes, and we don't know how they're going to come out and play. And it could end up working in a really wonderful, beneficial way. Like we don't know, even though we're all like, yeah, I don't fucking think so. My human rights are at risk, and I completely agree. Like that's terrifying. But it could go that way, and I think the best thing we can do is remember that there is infinite possibilities to anything, and that just because we are terrified, rightfully so, of it going in this direction, like we don't have the components or understanding of what it's going to look like on the other side of this, and it might be the best outcome that we could have in a timeline.
Sure. Yeah.
Love and lighting it a little fucking fun, I know, but still, like it's a potential. So like I'm sitting with it as I go through like all my feelings are contained within anger now. So I'm either like anger happy or anger sad or anger frustrated or whatever. Like that's all I got.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it's hard because like the way that you're talking about it in that very specific way, there's a part of me that's just like, oh, okay, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that something could shift, and something could shift at the end of the month, and that could be relieving. It could be a really big shift, or it could be just a small shift that really doesn't, it just sort of like cements him as president or something. I have no idea. It could be, it's like, oh, is Trump going to be able to make it all the way through the next 4 years? Is he going to like die from old age? Is he going to somehow become best friends with Bernie Sanders? And be okay, you're laughing, and so that's a no, probably. But
I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at that particular possibility, but I will say that as far as him making it through, the chances are very slim.
Yeah.
Energy wise, when I've looked at it, it looks
making
very
it through
quick.
his 4 years of presidency.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Very slim.
Yeah, there's just another little glimmer of hope of that I want to be able to hold on to, but this election is sort of like, it like hit me in such a way of like, I not only believed in some of the astrologers, but I was believing in all of the data that was coming through from all of the content that I was absorbing, whether it was on TikTok or New York Times or anything in between, of like, everything's going to be okay. And this is why that is. So I'm still in that part of grief where I'm just like, I will be setting myself up if I hope for something that's positive, right? So I'm being really protective, and I think a lot of people are being protective, and also a little hopeful that maybe things will pan out somewhat differently.
Yeah. At least my knee-jerk reaction whenever I have horrible, like I grieve for a second and then I immediately like pop to my guide teams. I'm like, what do I do now? Like, what is going to happen next? Like, what is this thing? Which I will say, a lot of people came and like, how can I even trust guides anymore? How can I even trust magic? And the truth of it is, it's like, it's up to you. Like, if you don't want to dive back into that, that's your choice. But now more than ever, I would say lean into your intuition, lean into your discovering who your spirit guides are. Like, it helps so much. And it is harder in some ways to lean into your intuition in adverse times, but it's also a lot easier if you start building trust with that intuition to get through adverse times. As someone who's had a good amount of those in my life that had to get through, I only had intuition to guide me, and it definitely worked. And I've seen it, for many people, and it's a space that is super important, in my opinion, to develop right now. So I immediately went to them like, what do I do now? And they're like, well, first of all, you still got community. Like, don't forget that. And also don't shut up, because I immediately was like, do I hide? Do I run away? Like, what do we do? Especially being pretty vocal about the work that I do. And spirituality is an inherently political thing. We're very lucky to have the religious freedom that we do at this moment in time. And it very much is. So I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing now? And I'm also pretty much in a bubble in a lot of ways, being in California. And they were very much like, yeah, look around though and find your people. Like, this is still about your people. Like, gather the people together. You guys still have connections. You can still build together. You can still create together, and don't shut up. So that's what I've been anchoring into every time I get super emotional and have a breakdown about it. I'm like, oh, find the people. Don't shut up. Find the people. Don't shut up.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I get it. And I think that's also what I've been telling people too, is find your people, find community, find people that you can be with or grieve with or be angry with or be hopeful with as well. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Another quick ad break for you. So this holiday season, I wanted to find gifts that spark a little joy and make people go, this is exactly what I wanted. That's where Uncommon Goods came through. They have the most unique, meaningful finds all in one place, making it so easy to get something special for everyone on my list. One of my favorite picks from their site, I got myself some custom glasses featuring my favorite teams, the Chicago Cubs and Miami Dolphins. And these glasses, they aren't just regular barware. They're beautifully illustrated and feel personal in a way that you just can't pick up at any store. And here's another fun one I got. I also picked up a little lemon tree. I'm excited to nurture it and maybe grow some lemons someday. It is a gift that keeps giving, a little project that I'm looking forward to. Uncommon Goods is great because every purchase supports small independent businesses and artists, and many of the items are handmade and one of a kind. Plus, with every purchase, they donate $1 to a nonprofit of your choice. They've donated over $3 million to date, which just makes them even better to buy from. So if you're looking for the perfect holiday gift, visit uncommongoods.com/solved for 15% off your next purchase. That is uncommonGoods.com/solved for 15% off. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Is there anything, like we've talked a little bit about how maybe Trump is sort of unearthing these uncomfortable things that we all really need to take a look at that we weren't acknowledging in the way that we should have so that we can eventually heal, which is great. I love that. Was there something, there's also kind of like the other side of it all, like all the people that did vote for Trump, like they're all really happy, excited. Maybe they're feeling like this is exactly what they wanted to see, and this is moving forward, and this makes a lot of sense. So you're talking to me, and we're also talking to my audience, and we all think similarly. It feels like it's kind of like funky, because if things do start to heal and grow, does that mean that all the MAGA or Trumpers that voted, are they going to be upset when things start to change in maybe a more positive direction, or are they going to get on board because they're going to see that there's really good things happening as well? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. So I truly think it depends on a case-by-case basis per individual. First of all, I think that part of the reason Trump came along is this is the death of fascism. It's its last, like, hurrah before it gets stomped. And after the stomping, which is what we are hoping for to occur, yes, things, if they do get better in that way, I think there will be a good amount of people who I think there's going to be a couple different categories. I think there'll be some people who recognize, oh my God, I was part of the problem. This is horrible. And they actually look at themselves in the mirror. They do their self-worth. They do their spiritual work. And they kind of come to terms with that and appreciate the better that it's getting and kind of make amends. I think there is a good chunk of that. I think there's a chunk that never really takes self-accountability, but do appreciate that things are getting better and just kind of like try to do the hide bit of their life on that part. It's like, no, like that, I didn't do that. It's fine. I'm going in this direction.
Right.
And then there's going to be those ride or die. He was the second coming. I'm going to follow him forever. People, no matter how much better things get for them, they will attribute it to him, even if he's 25 years in the grave. And that's how a cult works.
Right. Good point.
As someone who has to consciously on a regular basis make sure I'm not saying anything that could be interpreted as culty, since as a spiritual leader-ish person, I try very intentionally to not be that way. I have studied very closely how to make sure I am never that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. That makes sense. It feels like, and maybe we've sort of said this or you've sort of talked about this a bit, but it feels like Trump or a person like Trump is here for a very specific reason. This person was incarnated to really shake shit up in a really uncomfortable way. And I'm wondering how many people are like this? How often does this sort of thing happen? And if you look back in history of the universe, when this sort of thing does happen, does it always shake up into a way where we do actually learn the lesson, or does the world blow up?
So I personally look at everything as a spiral, right? Just like we've talked about history repeating itself spiral, but it opens up further and further between each round, right? So looking back at history, how often does something like this happen? Not a whole ton. Not a whole ton. Is there a person that shakes up the world in this intense of a way? We have one, we can probably think of one very specific German one that occurred. But there's other, sides and aspects of that as well. I think I've equated him to Julius Caesar multiple times as well, because Julius Caesar ended a republic in favor of an empire. And that was huge. Now, was there a ton of times of stability? Yeah. Like after he made it an empire, though, the common people did have a harder time, they also had times of really good times. They had a lot of socialist programs that got put in. There was public bathhouses and public bathrooms and public bread and public events. Like that's where we get chariot races and gladiators and all of that. All of that comes from that. So we did learn for a little while, and there was still the year of 4 emperors, and there was still a lot of like poisoning and like awful things. Like, don't get me wrong. But as far as like, it was a relatively stable period of time until the fall of the empire and all of that goes too. So in the way it kind of works is it shakes it up. We learn for a while, and then it comes in again and shakes it up, and we learn for a while. And each time that period of learning kind of lengthens. The reason I say I think this is kind of the stomping out of that pattern is, again, we are reaching a point of getting really, really higher in vibration, which just means we have more access to things. There's more magic things. There's more energy here in like on this layer of the universe cake. So I don't think those lessons have to continually being perpetuated. I think it was part of a device to get us up to a certain level within the universe. To me, at least, when I look at it, this does feel like a huge kind of last hurrah of that, but it's going to have far-reaching impact for a really long time down here.
Yeah. So I'd like to imagine that maybe in our lifetime, we'll see like the really good things that could come of it, but it sounds like this could be a while.
I refuse to believe we won't see those good things. I absolutely refuse. Which I have told my guides. I was like, if I came down here for this shit, I get the good things too. Like, I will have a beautiful ending on this planet. Like, we're not doing this. So I don't have exact timeline because that's just unfortunately not how it works. And I'm very hesitant because the future is very mutable, right? Like, we have power of manifestation. We have power to choose different things within our own lives and as a collective. So I'm trying to not look more than a year or two in advance to really get kind of concrete predictions or energy things or anything like that kind of going forward. What I will say is, from what I can see that it leads to, and I don't necessarily feel super comfortable announcing super publicly what I'm seeing, but I have channeled this in for the last 3 or 4 years, and I've been seeing the different pathways of how we get to this thing, this kind of end result. I don't think the end result's bad. I think it brings good things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It'll be messy to get there, but I do think it's a good thing.
So it seems like there will be positive shifts that happen because of like this really uncomfortable, horrible time that we're going through right now. So there will be some relief on the way at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the funny thing is I cling less to like the relief is there and more to the like, okay, well, how am I going to be right now? Like, how can I make right now better? How can I feel better? Because the truth of it is, and you mentioned it earlier, like so many people are suffering and are going to suffer because of this. And that is unfortunately what it is. And it sucks. Like, that's horrific. But, no, at no point in human history, even just looking at that, but also just, spiritually going forward, were things forever bad. There did come lights at the end of all of the tunnels over and over and over again. And so if things continue to repeat themselves, that has to be there too. And I just hope this one is like the ultimate light. Like, yeah.
And even the like 18 different directions that the Earth is being pulled in cosmically, like they all have good intentions, right? They just all disagree on which path to take. Yeah. Why do they
if you
disagree?
think about it, if you're like talking to like the Egyptian gods, like if you look at their like types of myths, right? And their myths were very much like, we shatter things and then we find them and we fix them, and like they're very concrete. And then we have like the Greek gods over here, like, but what if we slept with cows? Like, it's kind of like those two, like the diametrically opposed like ideas of like, this is how we're going to get there. This is, my path is better than your path. And if they go this way, it'll work better that way. And well, maybe they should just buckle down. But like, it's all the different kind of forces out there that have like different philosophies about how to move this layer forward.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So will they like eventually all kind of get on the same path and be like, all right, well, we're all going to choose this? Or is it just timelines being split all over the place and we're going to go in different directions depending on which timeline we're on?
That is a lovely idea. I don't know. I don't know. I know that they do all have the same kind of end result in mind. So I don't know if it's we all split and then come back together at that end result and it's like boom, or if we stay on this timeline and just kind of zigzag our way through everything to get to that end. I know at the same time we are rising vibration, so I don't know if then maybe some people get on board with one and someone on the other, and what I don't know how it shakes out. I wish I did, but I am not a mediator of godly intentions, so they can fight amongst themselves.
Yeah, but the end results. Are you able to like talk about that a little bit of like, so then where are we ideally headed? Is it just to be like one with the universe? Is it to like really understand love? Like, or to be super creative? What is that?
I wish. That would be really nice. No, I don't. So, okay, there are many different kind of ideas and philosophies around that. And even within the spiritual community, a lot of... there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that happens, and I've seen it especially right now where people are like, we just need to love each other and we just need to lie to each other, and that's where we're headed anyway. No. Like, I don't think that's exactly where we're headed. I think that is a drastic oversimplification of the amount of energy that exists in the universe. I do think we are headed towards being more of what I consider like an eternal realm. So an eternal realm is like what we think about like Olympus, like the realm of the gods, where it's just like layers of the universe cake, and our current laws of physics are not the same laws of physics. Does that mean there is no fighting and no bad feelings and it's all just ecstasy and all just understanding love? No, I don't think so. Yeah. I think it's just another way that the universe is experiencing itself. It seems more fun to me though. Right. You know, a lot of things would be a lot better down here if I could fly. Yeah. Just going to throw that out there. So if that's where we're headed, where we get to, you know, fly and have more connection and have longer life space and experience more and do more magic and probably therefore help a different planet or realm that exists lower down on the universe cake and kind of expand from there, for sure. I don't have clarity on like what is the ultimate goal of the universe other than just to experience itself. And right now we are experiencing it. Like that's how it is. So I will say people who will talk about like 5D or new earth or things like that are basically just talking about it moving up and having more of that clarity. It's not ultimate everything peaceful. I don't think. I do think it is a lot more loving. I do think it is a lot more expansive. And I do think there is a lot more positive and like creative energy flow within that space the higher up the universe cake we get. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's all just like love and light and peaceful and active.
Well, that's too bad.
I know. I'm like, oh, it's so doom and gloom. I mean, it's not doom and gloom, I promise. I do think there's really good things over there, but it is. It's But that being said, okay, on a personal level, this is just me speaking for me. Okay. If someone told me, and I had a creator say this a while ago on TikTok, and I was like, oh, that sounds miserable. Someone was like, when you die, it's just all ecstasy. It's all amazing all the time. And I was like, ew. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but I would be super bored if I had like no problem to fix. And I would be super discontented if there was like no diversity around me at any point in time. Like, and that's just on a very personal level. I was like, oh, I don't want that to be my reality. Like, absolutely not. Like, I want to go through things and be together and make those bonds and understand people and, you know, beings. And like, that's so much more interesting. And that feels so much more valuable than just going and being like, everything is perfect forever. Like,
right. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. Once again, it's a really good reframe. And I think that a lot of this conversation was, how do we reframe how we're feeling right now? We're really stuck in this moment, feeling all the feelings, and that is incredibly valid. They're all beautiful feelings, even the really uncomfortable ones. Yeah. We are headed in a direction that should be, you know, like that will be filled with growth and learning and evolving, and we're happy about that. It's understandable that Trump is like revealing all of these really ugly things that we have to take a close look at so that we can change them or heal them or whatever. So yeah, I do feel better at the end of this conversation, and that was my goal. And hopefully, you know, lots of other people listening also feel better. So thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. One positive piece, I guess, too, is I know a lot of beings on the other side that I've talked to and channeled with that are pissed off at Trump too. So he's going to have a hard time when he does pass. When he does pass, there's going to be many a being that's like not pleased. So
that's satisfying.
If there's that consolation, it gives me warm and fuzzies.
I will take that, definitely. Can you remind people where they can find you?
Absolutely. So again, my handle on everything is Liker of Words. I am on TikTok, as long as TikTok exists, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find me there. What I will say too is I know a lot of people would probably like a reading with me. My books are actually closed right now for readings, mostly because I got too far booked out and I felt kind of uncomfortable making people wait a really long time. However, I am launching a new course at the end of this, actually 2 new courses at the end of this month. One is going to be about how you can connect with your spirit guides. It's just a digital course. It's going to be like very inexpensive, very easy to do, because I want everyone to be able to do that right now. I think it's super essential and necessary, as well as another course on how to figure out what your psychic senses are and your perception is. So I think the best spot to find me presently, if you want to head to emilydexterpsychic.com and just sign up for my mailing list. I promise I won't spam you a whole bunch. I send 1 email a week and it's just your energy forecast. So it's literally just for you in general, but then you'll actually be able to know when you can kind of work with me there and do any group readings or things like that. I also have some mentorship programs and stuff coming up. So if you want to lean in, which is what I honestly recommend for right now, if you're feeling out of control, like lean in on your spiritual magic stuff, it truly is more effective right now than it's ever been, or it's been for thousands of years. So we have a lot of magic at our disposal. So I highly recommend leaning in on your connection the best that you can. And yeah, that's where I am. I also have a podcast. It's called The Alchemist Inkwell. I also do that. So you can find that all over the place.
So much. Yeah, you're all over the place. Okay. Thank you so much for being on. Welcome. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Me too. Thank you for having me. This has been super fun.
Yeah. Bye.